Hello and welcome to Amrita Civil Service Academy. Myself Nitin Kunneparambil and I am here to address one of the most important questions that haunts a civil service aspirant. And that big question which really decides whether you make it or you break it is this question of what optional to choose. I am here to present the case of history as an optional. Before we move any further, let me talk about myself. I am Nitin Kunneparambil. I come from Palakkad. It's a small village in Kerala. I did my schooling there in Palakkad, where from I moved to Cochin University and then to IIT Kharagpur. After having worked for a couple of years in corporate, I decided to try my luck in civil service examination. I did crack into the all the way up till the interviews, but in I understood my passion for teaching and for this particular subject, which is history. Over past 3 years, I've been teaching in various institutes in Trivandrum and Cochin and other places. I also have a decent following on India's number one online platforms like Unacademy and other things. And I've taught almost like 18 batches. I've taught almost 1,500 students over a span of 3 years. So that makes me quite qualified to comment upon history as an optional. Now, fundamentally, let us look at this question. What are the criteria that one should be looking at while choosing an optional? The first one should be whether the subject is scoring or not. The second one, you have to take the syllabus and really understand how big the syllabus is, whether the syllabus is manageable. The third one is, is there any overlap with your general studies paper? That means it makes your life easier, right? So that should be seen. The fourth thing is you have to take a question paper and analyze it and understand whether, the kind of syllabus, the kind of questions that come, are you able to tackle those questions? Right? And you should see whether the place where you're living in, whether they are offering the coaching for that particular optional. What are the kind of material? Is a dearth of material for one topic? Should you keep on hunting in different parts? Like should you get materials from Delhi or places like on internet? So these are the very generic questions that haunts any UPSC aspirant while choosing an optional. Now let us apply these important topics to history optional and see how well history fares. The first one being scoring. Is history a scoring optional? I'll tell you the answer is yes. Now, why do I say that with such confidence? Is because this year's national topper is this person called as Ishwar Kumar, who got 180th rank. Now, his mark in history as an optional was 318, my friends. 318 is a huge mark for any optional. Now, is it because this person is from JNU or Delhi University of St. Stephens or St. Saviour's? No. This person doesn't come from a history as a graduation subject. Rather, he is an engineer. So here you can see an engineer who had taken history as an optional and worked his way out to get a very high mark of 318 in 2017 mains, which means that history is certainly a scoring option. Now, Ishwar is just one person. You can see many other success examples all the way from Gaurav Gupta, Gaurav Agarwal. All of these people had had history as their optionals, right? So the idea is that history is definitely a scoring optional. The second one is about syllabus. Now, one thing I should admit that history indeed has a very vast syllabus. But it is not like many other subjects. The history syllabus, even though it is vast, it is very comprehensible. You really don't have to wreck your head to understand what is written here. There's no great intricacies. It is voluminous. At the same time, it's going to be very simple. And also you should know that the paper is going to be very static. It's history, right? It's once it's done and dusted. And so what you can see is that the variations in the question papers and the syllabus is not much, right? And once in a while, you have some new jargonic words come, but it's very less. Probably 5% or 10% of the question comes in that fashion. But with your options, you're not supposed to answer every question, right? So you can tackle it fairly well. Now, let us check out this topic whether history has overlap with your GS. I will tell you, my friends, history is one of the subjects which has the maximum overlap with the GS paper. If you see the prelims, invariably 12 question to 15 question comes from history plus art and culture alone. See, this is a weakness for most of the students. If you can actually get it done, you are really going to be having an edge in your preparation. Now, if you consider the kind of topic, for this year at least, 2018 prelims, what you could see is that there's a massive contribution from history alone. It's like almost 20 questions, I believe. So history has a huge overlap when it comes to prelims. Now consider your mains paper. In GS1, almost out of the 20 questions, 7 questions comes from history plus art and culture. It's a huge number of marks. Now when you actually look at GS4, there are questions which do come from this, where you can use your history's knowledge to argue a case. Like you can probably say that Mahatma Gandhi during civil disobedience movement found that this case is not right and he still went ahead, or when during Quit India movement he understood that there are certain problems which is happening, but still Gandhi, being the pragmatic politician he was, he chose to ignore it. So you can quote certain examples from your history to your GS4 answer. That makes your answer very authentic. You obviously can give in GS4 you can probably give a thing from your own personal life. Yes, that is very much appreciated, but quoting an example from history is always going to get make you score higher marks. When essay, there was 1 year, I think it was in 2016, I scored a huge mark in essay. I think I scored 160 mark out of 250. Now how did I manage to do that? I managed to do that because I was able to quote certain examples from history, some anecdotal examples, I had just brought in, and I presented the case, I've argued the case very beautifully well. So basically for your GS1, for your GS4, for your and your essays, it's going to be very important. And just think about the interviews. If a board member is going to ask you certain question, if you could just quote the relevance of that particular topic in history, see the authenticity that you will bring to your answer. So that means that history is really going to help you out in different stages of your examination, be it prelims, be it your mains, be it your interview. History is going to really help you out. And the questions that you see, you see 90% of the questions in history are going to be repetitive. See one topic, like if you see ancient India, there's one standard question which comes, the federalism debate in India. See, that's a very static question. It comes again and again. You see questions like the economic policies of Akbar. The question keeps coming. So the point I'm trying to say, history is a very static topic. Yes, it is voluminous, but it is very static, which gives you an advantage to prepare it really well. If you see the materials which are available, it's huge amount of material. If you see, history is probably one of the subjects which is taken by the maximum number of students in the north. That means there's no dearth of material. You can find materials almost everywhere. Let it be the standard textbooks, let it be the coaching material from different institutions. It's all going to be there in huge volume, right? So there's no dearth of material, as sure, there's no doubt about it. And if you see the coaching institutes who offer history as an optional, see, this is going to be a bit tricky, because in northern India, you can see that the people generally offer history as an optional more than in south. Basically, it's because of the coaching which is available in the south. There's no standard coaching which is available for history as of now, right? Yes, but that might be changing soon, right? And then, but all this option, scoring aspect, the syllabus, the overlap with GS, the questions, the style of the question comes, the coaching availability, all of this is immaterial if you have the interest for it. Now, if you have interest for history, I tell you, you should not look for any other option other than history. Likewise, it's there with everything. People do say public administration, people are not able to score. But if you are really having an aptitude for public administration, I say go for it. If you have something for about political sciences and international relations, you should go for that. So the idea is that if you think you have an interest for it, then you should take it. You should make sure that you are able to converse and be with that subject for at least 2 hours a day. See, this is something you have to do probably 10 months of your preparation. So you might as well make sure that you are going to have a good rapport with the subject. So that is another point. Right. So with this kind of thing, I think I have fairly presented you to the case by history as an optional is a very lucrative one, which is going to be very interesting for you and very rewarding as well. Now, we are all UPSC aspirants, so that means one thing you should always do is this aspect of critically analyze. What are the positives of history and what are the negative aspects of history as an optional? The positive, as we already stated, the portions are going to be very static, the questions are very repetitive, massive overlap with GAS. If you can see, the map, there's one question which comes from the map section that alone comes from 50 marks. And believe me when I say you this, that 50 out of the 50 marks, you can score 40 plus mark aram se. You can easily score 40 plus mark. That's a huge advantage. See, if you can see the highest mark of a particular, of a topper, it would come somewhere close to 140 to 150, right? 140, 150, that should be decent enough, good enough mark. And I'm saying that 50 out of the 50 mark, 40 mark can be got just like that. That's going to be a very important thing, that's a very assured mark. So you should invest heavily on that. And you can see plenty of material is going to be there. And again, the massive overlap with your prelims, For example, 12 to 15 question is the normal thing. But this year, it was very lucky because it came around 20, 22 questions. But negatives is that history is vast. But again, we should be very smart here, because not every aspect of the syllabus needs to be taken with the same intensity. So that's a Pareto principle, right? Now 80% of the questions are definitely going to come only from the 20% of the syllabus. Remember, my friends, 20% of the total syllabus can earn you 80% of the questions which are going to come. See, so if you're smart enough, even though this voluminous syllabus can be beautifully manipulated, all right. And then if you see, if with the right orientation, without a right orientation, there is a chance in history may probably you can get lost. So that's why you need to have a mentor. You need to go for a coaching who really knows, a person who really knows what is that is being offered. And then finally, you need to get a hang over the style of writing. So style of writing history is going to be a bit challenging, but that is why you should. It's not just important that you get the knowledge, but to reproduce that knowledge into your paper. See, the person who's correcting your answer script only knows your knowledge through the things that has been written in front of them. So you should make sure that it is not just about mugging up things, not about hogging up knowledge. It's also about representing them beautifully on a piece of paper. So this is the history, the positive aspects of history and the negative aspects of history. Now let's talk about certain myths which are going to be there about history. Now some people, people obviously the kind of people who tell these myths have no idea what history is. People say, oh, history, it's too much of dates, too many people are there. It's not about that. History is about people's life, how a society functioned, how a society has transformed from one point to the other. As we speak, a lot of social issues regarding women are going to be there, whether women needs to be allowed in Sabarimala or not, or women reservation bill is pending. So we have to see, when did this go wrong? So you go a bit back in history and you suddenly see in Vedic time, women are very powerful. You can see many interesting people like Lopamudra, Gargi, Maitri. These people were very knowledgeable women there. Then how did this go on to become so bad? You can see one point in Vedic time you have a lot of women being very respected, and the other side the women are not allowed in temples. So where did things go wrong? So history has answer for that, because the answer comes from one misogynist text called as Manusmriti, which speaks about restricting women's freedom. So you can say that original scriptures don't speak about this. So that means the solution to a lot of social problems of current day is there in the history. Can you see how beautifully all of this is connected, right? So it's not about the number of people or the date or timeline, rather it's about how a society progressed. So you can actually, instead of telling 1526 is the year when Babur fought Ibrahim Lodi, so if you are not very comfortable with that, you can probably say in the early half of 16th century. Can you see? So that timeline should be very clear in your mind. Okay, that is there. And but basically when I say it as an engineer as well as a person from IIT, I can definitely say you that history is a very, very scientific subject which needs a scientific intervention, and it's not like a very mashup subject. So you can be very careful and divide it into beautiful pieces and then assimilate it and then finally put it together. It will make complete beautiful sense for what is happening. Now if we could just take about talk a bit about the syllabus. As I said, the syllabus is going to be very vast. So this paper history syllabus is going to be divided in two papers. There is paper 1 and there is paper 2. Now paper 1 is going to be again divided into two halves. First one is the ancient Indian history and the second one is a medieval Indian history. Again, paper 2 is going to be divided into two halves. The first half is the modern Indian history and the second half is the world history. So these are the broad classifications. So basically, when I talk about the ancient, let me elaborate this concept of one small section of history. Let's say let's say ancient Indian history. Now, in ancient Indian history, what you can see is that you're going to speak a bit about Stone Age, basically the Neolithic men, the Mesolithic men, the Paleolithic men, and how they're the kind of tools that they use. Very, very, very simple topic. There's no way in the world, this topics could be twisted. So you can see that, it's a very short 20-30 mark question is going to come from there, right? Next you come to, the Indus Valley civilization. Probably like 5 topics are going to be there. Indus Valley civilizations polity, Indus Valley civilizations religion, Indus Valley civilizations script, Indus Valley civilizations, the town planning. 5 or 6 topic and it is done. Again, you come to the next one, the Vedic page. You have an early Vedic age, you have a later Vedic age, how the society changed, how the religion changed, how the gods changed. Everything can be beautifully explained. And then comes the another section where you're going to see people like Alexander invading India, right? And then you can see Mauryans coming in. Then you can see a post-Mauryan phase. Basically, it's about Indo-Greek, Shakas, Kushanas, and Parthians, people like that. Finally, Guptas come. And then Harshavardhana. See, can you see only like 6 or 7 topics are there and subtopics for it. So it's a very, very clear syllabus. So you really don't have to wreck your head on. Similarly, how I explained with respect to ancient India, there are medieval Indian topics as well. Right. Now, some other topic which I want to tell you about is the book list. So book list is very important. You cannot crack this exam by mugging up certain things from some coaching material itself, because you need to get a hang of the kind of thing, the answer that you're going to write. For that, you have to read some standard textbook. And I am going to give you a certain number of textbooks which are going to be very important. For example, if you take ancient Indian history, there are 2 standard textbooks for it. The first one being Upinder Singh. Believe me when I say you this is the best book that you can probably get. And once you start reading, you're going to get addicted to it. It's such a beautiful book it is, Upinder Singh. And some topics can be also be referred by Early India by Romila Thapar. Early India by Romila Thapar. And then the third topic that you can suggest you is that IGNOU BA and MA notes. IGNOU, Indira Gandhi National Open University, you can look into that kind of topics. And then what you can see is that this would probably cover the whole of ancient India. For your medieval India, it's going to be in 2 parts. The early medieval India, again, Upinder Singh will take care of it. But the later medieval India, the Delhi Sultanate, the topic for you that will be in Satish Chandra, and the Mughal India also is going to be from Satish Chandra. For selective reading, you can go for IGNOU notes as well. So that's about the medieval India. When you come to the modern Indian history in the paper 2, section A, the only one great book that you should follow is the subaltern historian's book, Shekhar Bandyopadhyay's From Plassey to Partition. It's a beautiful book. It's a very beautiful book. I have read it like thrice or 4 times. I don't know. It's very beautiful. That beautiful a book it is. So I strongly suggest that book to you. Take time, slowly underline it, make notes from it for a very, very important topics. You're set to go. So it is basically From Plassey to Partition by Shekhar Bandyopadhyay. And another book which you could probably read, I think it should be very common by now, it is India's Struggle for Independence by Bipin Chandra, Panikkar, and you can see Mridula Chatterjee, Mridula Mukherjee, I guess. So these people have written this book, India's Struggle for Independence. That book is also good, but I strongly suggest that you read From Plassey to Partition. World history, as we know, is going to be very huge. So there are a couple of things which you should be reading, and that is one book I can suggest you is this World History by Ranjan Chakrabarty. I think it's Pearson edition. And then you can see there is another book by Norman Lowe. Norman Lowe is another book which you can see. But then I think this topic being as wide as it gets, you should really use internet also to the judicious use. Right? So these are the kind of book lists. So basically what are we looking at? Upinder Singh, Romila Thapar, IGNOU notes. You're going to talk about Satish Chandra. You're going to talk about Upinder Singh for medieval India itself. Then you're going to Shekhar Bandyopadhyay's Plassey to Partition, Bipin Chandra's book for India's Struggle for Independence, Norman Lowe. And maybe there are people, some Indian authors are also there, for like Jain and Mathur. So basically the whole of this can be covered in 9 books. right? So that is the beauty of history. 9 books, you complete 500 marks of preparation can be addressed. Now, so how should you go about this? So the thing is that first thing you should do is get your timelines fixed, right? Certain topics, who came first, who came after, how the society changed, that thing could be done in the first reading, but the second reading becomes very important. The second reading, what you should do is you should add, first you bring a skeleton and then you add flesh to it. So similarly, the timeline fixing is the first read, but the nitty-gritties are going to be picked in the second read. But if you're smart enough, you can find a balance between these two, first read and second read, where you can integrate the kind of approach. Because that's what I did. Within a month or two, I think I fixed a lot of things in the timeline section, and then finally I had plugged the gaps using serious research. So I honestly think that it should not be gulped in one go, because there is advantage for slow learning. Because if you learn certain things slow, what happens is that it is going to your long term memory and not your short term memory. So for that, I suggest you that take a brief period. So please don't go to institutes where people are going to offer you with 2 months I'm going to complete the whole subject. Please don't do that, because that is going to your short term memory, is never going to help you. But I strongly suggest that you take a coaching which goes on for a longer period of time, let's say 5 months or 6 months, so that you can, whatever is being taught in the class, you can go back home, you can take the standard textbook, you can read the standard textbook, you can make your own answers, you can see the question papers which have been UPSC's previous year's question paper, you can see that thing, you can write your answer, where you can bring that answer and give it to your mentor, your coaching institute, and they can evaluate for you. So all of these things needs to be addressed properly. So I think that is by and large the whole analysis of history as an optional. I think we have spoken about the various dimension about how history, scoring and the material availability, the overlap with GS, and the syllabus. All of this was covered very beautifully and in detail. And we have also seen the kind of things that history, the challenges that history throws up, right, and how to tackle that thing. And we also spoke about the organization of paper. We also saw one particular topic, how timeline needs to be fixed. We also spoke about the kind of thing that is expected out of you. But I also have to pitch in one idea that Amrita Civil Service Academy is going to offer you. That is, from 1st of August, we are going to launch the history optional paper. I think I'll be waiting for you in the classrooms. I'll see you then. Thank you.